Good. All right. So we have that. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to apply factor by grouping to this. So essentially we're replacing 11x with 10x plus x. And now we actually have a polynomial with 4 terms. So what do we do now? Well, we apply factor by grouping. That's what we're going to apply. Okay, that's good. So remember, what we do next is, well, what we do first when we do factor by grouping is we always find the GCF of this, the GCF. Well, hopefully you can see that we have a non-zero constant term. Okay, that tells us that in the GCF there can't be any variables, so that m is 0. Here, the coefficient of x here is just 1. And the only factor of 1 is 1 itself. So the only common factor among 5, 10, 1, and 2 is 1. So then you get that b is 1, and altogether we get this. We get b then has to be 1. Oh, excuse me, the GCF is 1. Right here, let me write it out. That might help. Wait, come on. There we go. Right, so again, we have our m is 0. Again, we have a non-zero constant term. One of the coefficients is 1, so the only factor of 1 itself is going to be 1. I mean, I wasn't going to list the others, but for instance, if you had the factors of 2, that's going to be 1, comma, 2. For 5, oh boy, we have 1 and 5. I mean, even though I did not list 10, but hopefully you can see that the only common factor you're going to have is 1. Because the greatest common factor has to be a common factor of all the numbers. I mean, even if I did list 10, I guess I'll do that. We have 1, 2, I'm going to have to erase this also, 5, and 10. But hopefully you can see that the only factor in common is 1. And there's no variable. So just like we saw before, the GCF then has to be 1. Okay, that's, oh boy, let me go back. I got to erase this as well. So let me erase that. There we go. But once we get that, what do we do next? Well, in factor by grouping, right, we form those 2 groups using parentheses. So what do we have? We have 5x squared plus 10x, x plus 2. Okay? And now we have to factor each of these 2 groups. That is, sorry, let me say it again. We have to find the GCF of each group individually. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, that's what I'm going to do here now. So for the first group, it's 5x squared plus 10x, right? Okay, so what do? Well, we can see that the smallest exponent of x is just 1. So we take m to be 1. And it's just like what we saw earlier with 9 and 36, 4 and 16. Since 5 is a factor of 10, the greatest common factor among the coefficients here is 5. 5 is a factor of 10. So the smallest exponent of x is 1. 5 is the biggest common factor of 5 and 10. Our GCF then is 5x. You know, we take m to be 1, and here b is going to be 5. Now that we know what the GCF is, what we can do next is factor it out. And that's what we're doing. As before, we put it in front, okay? Then we divide into, then we divide. We're dividing into a sum, so we divide into each term in the sum, as you can see. Okay, and then once we do that, we get this. Here, the 5's cancel. X squared over x is just x, and so on. Yeah.
Can we do the dividing on the sides? Because when I put it all together like that, I get very confused.
What do you mean put it on the side? Like
just right on the side of the paper, like the 5x, the parentheses, then 5x2 divided by 5x plus 10x divided by 5x.
Like when you hand it in, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just showing all the steps because I know some people. I'm erring on the side of caution. I don't know everyone's math background here.
Okay.
That's why. So yeah, if you went from here directly to here, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Good question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay. But that's what we get here, though. That's what we get here. Okay, so now that's for the first group. So altogether, we get 5x times x plus 2. Okay, now the other group is just x plus 2. Now, I mean, it should be easy to see, what do you call it, what the GCF of this thing is? At least I hope it is. I mean, since we have a non-zero constant term, right? Well, you can't take x out. So the smallest exponent of x is 0. The leading coefficient is 1. And the only factor of 1 is 1 itself. So because of that, our b would be 1, and m would be 0, and we get this. In other words, from x plus 2, the greatest common factor in x plus 2 is just 1. That's what I'm trying to say. There's a non-zero constant term. You can't factor x out. The only common factor of the leading coefficient 1 and 2 is 1. Okay, so for x plus 2, there's nothing we can do. But that's actually okay because, if you notice, when we look at the two groups, we can see that we have a common factor of x plus 2. Right? We have a common factor here of x plus 2. That's good because we want to factor that out. And that's what we do here. We're going to factor out the x plus 2, as you can see. Okay, and after you factor it out, again, the next step you can skip if you want. That's fine. I'm just showing all the steps because, again, I don't know exactly everyone's math background. But basically from here, or here, I guess, you should hopefully be able to see that when you factor it out, you're left with 5x plus 1. I mean, you could probably visualize it. You can imagine x plus 2 being removed, and same thing over here. But really in the background, this is what's happening. So here we go. So basically altogether, we get this. Okay, now that's one example. I know this was tricky. I understand that. So I was going to do another one. Are there any questions on this? Stop the recording.